Good morning, everybody. We have a few people still joining us, so we're just going to wait for a little tiny bit longer. Okay, I think we'll get started. Kia ora, everybody. Hopefully you can all hear me online. You'll probably be aware now that we have actually, because of the large volume of people that are joining us today, we are having you all on mute at this point, but hopefully you can still hear me clearly. So we're going to provide you today with a bit of an overview of 4 key TEC performance indicators that we use for provider-based delivery. So if you're a provider not offering provider-based, this probably won't be as valuable for you, but you're very welcome to stay. We're going to talk about what those measures are, why they're important, and how we calculate them. My name is Esther, and I'm one of the members of the TEC team that's going to be involved in this presentation today. And joining me for the session online are my colleagues Jordan, Alice, Anita, and Nathan. We have heard through our engagements with you that actually there will be some value in us providing some clearer information about TEC's EPI methodologies. So you also ask us, you want to understand a little bit more about how we apply those methodologies to your data to calculate your EPIs. So we're aiming that this webinar will kind of explain, I guess, the synergies between your data, our expectations and our investment decisions. But we also want to talk a little bit about how understanding your data can help support improved learner outcomes as well. Achieving sector-wide improvements in educational outcomes is central to the tertiary education strategy and obviously to our investment approach, and the TES talks to those priority areas of improved learner achievement, access and participation. So no surprises that as well, TEC has got some pretty clear messaging in our plan guidance and our supplementary plan guidance this year about expecting yearly improvements in learner achievement, and we've included our performance expectations for the various funds in those plan guidance documents to make that really explicit. So for all of these reasons, having a really good understanding of EPIs and how we calculate them is obviously important, and that's why many of you are here today. So I'm sure you'll all be very familiar with what EPIs are, but just for maybe for future watchers of this webinar and those who are perhaps new to the world of TEC funding, EPIs are our standard performance measurements, and they show TEC how TEOs are supporting learners to succeed. We apply that same methodology or formulas, for one of another phrase, to the data that you submit. If you offer provider-based delivery in this case, and because of that consistency in terms of our formulas, we then use that EPI information for comparison purposes across TEOs, and we can compare individual TEOs' results against our published performance expectations as well. I just mentioned beforehand that we are going to make this presentation available to you as well. We obviously are recording this session too, so you'll get a copy of the recording and the presentation itself in due course after we've finished. On the slide here, we've got the 4 main provider-based EPIs, and shortly we're going to go through each of those in some detail. The methodology that we use for calculating EPIs has actually been in place since 2017. We do have another measure, which is participation rate. We're not going to cover that one today, but you can still read about that and reference all the other EPI definitions and methodologies on the TEC website. If you want to follow the links on this slide when we send this out to you, you'll be able to do that. Look, I also just wanted to be pretty upfront at this point that what we're going to be sharing today will be quite technical and there is a fair bit to take in. So, we could spend hours on this topic, but what we're going to do today really is just to cover off that core information. So you'll probably be able to identify which portions of this presentation you're going to want to re-watch to kind of really absorb what's being shared. And I think today will help you start to formulate the kind of questions that you might want to ask as they pertain to your organisation, rather than going into lots of detail here about asking questions about your own organisations. So this is why we've kept the conversation in the chat only, rather than conversation verbally. So if you do have any questions, really keen for you to put those into the chat, please. We want to try and keep that information kind of more general questions that you might have about what we're saying today about EPIs, rather than talk to individual questions about your own organizations. We want to keep things confidential, and there's some privacy matters here. So we want to give you the opportunity to raise any specific questions that you have about your own organizations with our customer contact team. But if you have some general questions that you want clarity as we proceed, please do put those into the chat. We want to give you the detailed methodology documentation. The link again is on this slide, so that you can refer to that after the session today. And like I say, we're really happy to talk you through the data. When we do have individual conversations with TEOs, we do find it's really valuable to actually have your own data on the screen when we're talking with you about it. So that's kind of why we're encouraging, if there are specific questions about your own organizations, we can talk you through those things together online and make it a bit more, pertinent to your own organizations. But today, general headlines about the EPIs, so you can kind of whet your appetite, I guess. EPIs, of course, aren't just a way to see how the system is performing or, to support TEC's investment and monitoring functions. They also give TEOs, as I mentioned, an opportunity to identify areas for further attention. We know that seeing learners succeed is hugely important to everybody who's attending this webinar today, and it's the heart of what TEOs are there for. And so using the data that you have can help make decisions about where to best target support for those learners. That's integral, actually, that approach to TEC's learner success resources. And a little bit later on, I'll talk a bit more about what those learner success resources are. But for now, I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Anita for the next part of the webinar. Thanks, Anita.
Thanks, Esther, and morena, everyone. So this next section, we're going to go through where we source the underlying data used in the EPI calculations and where you can find your EPIs. So provider-based data is submitted through the single data return, or the SDR. The SDR collects tertiary data for funding and monitoring purposes. This includes information on learners, courses, qualifications, and completions. Our TEC EPIs are derived from the data submitted by TEOs. We rely on the data being accurate and complete. So your data quality could affect your EPIs. We then use this data and apply TEC's EPI methodology and calculations over the top. It is worthwhile stating that your own student management system performance metrics might not align to TEC's methodology and figures. If you think this is an issue, you need to talk to your SMS vendor. So how can you access this information? All TEOs have access to their own data through TEC information products, previously known as Nakite. In the slide, we have screenshots of how you can access these information products. To access the information products, you can go to the tec.govt.nz website and click on the Information Products button on the top right-hand side. Once you click on that, if you cannot see the My Performance SDR app under the What's Important section, please click on the All Information Products button. You will then be asked to sign in. So you must sign in with your login with ESL option. Once you have entered your username and password, all of the apps that you have access to will be visible. Oh, can you just go back? Yeah, thank you. Not all of the apps will be available to everyone. It is user and fund dependent. While we are only focusing on the My Performance SDR app today, there are a lot of other apps that can help you explore your data. To access the EPI data, you will need to click on the My Performance SDR app. Please be aware that you will only be able to see your own TEO data in any of the My apps. It will display your data and the EPI measures. Once you have accessed the My Performance SDR app, in the olive banner at the top, it will tell you when the data in the app was last uploaded. Even though all data is scheduled to be updated early each morning, it is still good to check when it was last done. There are 34 reports available in the My Performance SDR app. The underlying data is the same for all reports in this app. Each report focuses on different views of the EPI. Each EPI has several different reports to view. They all have a high-level summary report, an EPI over time view report, and then reports breaking them down further, like into learner demographics or qualification. We will cover 7 of these reports at a very high level today throughout the presentation. EPI data will only be displayed when EPI data will only be displayed when the EPI conditions have been met. The provider-based methodology document on the TEC website will provide you with detailed information around this. While we are taking you through the 4 EPIs, we do recommend that you become familiar with this document and how each EPI works. Each year, TEC publishes TEO's EPIs externally. Finalised data for the prior reporting year is typically released in the 3rd quarter of the current year after the April SDR submissions. So on the 3rd of July this year, we will be publishing 2025 EPIs. Just note that for privacy reasons, all of the screenshots that we have here from the My Performance SDR have different filters applied and will show different data, and some data fields have been blurred. So the first report that I would like to take you through today is the high-level summary report. This provides the percentage rate for each of the 4 EPIs, which are in those pink boxes. The EPI rates shown are based on the filters that you apply in the top. For this report, we recommend you apply only 1 reporting year. Otherwise, the EPIs displayed in those boxes will be based on multiple years. If you are unsure what filters you have selected, they are visible in the green boxes at the top above the filter selection panel, as shown in the blue boxes there. The next report is the summary over time report. The EPI rates shown are based on the filters that you apply at the top. We recommend that you select multiple reporting years for this so you can see a time series of your EPIs. For all charts in the information products, you can change them to a table view if you like. So as shown in the bottom right-hand corner, if you right-click on the chart, choose the 3 dots in the circle, and then select the View Data option, it will change it to a table view. This can be helpful if you actually want to see the actual numbers easily. We're now going to take you through each of the 4 provider-based EPIs. After each EPI, we will pause to see if there are any questions that have been raised in the chat that we can answer straight away. Please note that if it's quite technical in nature, we might not be able to answer your questions in the webinar, but we will get back to you. So the first year retention rate are the proportion of learners in a cohort who enroll in a qualification at the same level in the year after they enter the cohort. Strong first year retention rates show that learners that are retained in their second year of study are more likely to go on to complete a qualification. First year retention rates are one of 2 cohort-based EPIs. Cohort measures track how a specific group of people who share a common starting point perform or progress over time. Cohorts for first year retention are only created for NZQCF levels 4 and above, and that have a qualification F's value of 2 or more. Due to this, some funds are automatically excluded from this EPI, for example, Youth Guarantee, DQ1 and 2, in addition to other funds that is listed in the methodology document like off-job training and ACE. One example of the standard information product reports available is the first year retention summary as shown in the slide. This report shows you your first year retention rate and the figures that make up the calculation. In this example, there are 57,266 learners who entered into the first year retention rate cohort in 2023. In 2024, 42,614 of these learners enrolled in a course associated with the same level qualification. Therefore, the 2024 reporting year first year retention rate is 74.4%. That's the 42,614 divided by 57,266. It also tells you how many learners were not retained. In this example, it's 14,652 learners. This report also shows you the first year retention rate by intended qualification and qualification NSCED. Just going to pause to see if there were any questions raised in the chat, Jordan or Alice. No? Okay, I'll continue. So progression rate from levels 1 to 4 shows the proportion of learners enrolling in a higher level qualification after completing a level 1 to 4 qualification. The learner can enroll in their higher level qualification at the same or different TEO within New Zealand. The learner must enroll in a higher qualification within 12 months of the level 1 to 4 qualification completion. This measure shows how successfully learners progress to a higher level study and shows whether learners are moving up the qualification pathway rather than stopping at lower levels. It also helps assess how well lower level qualifications prepare learners for further study. Please refer to the TEC methodology documentation for detailed examples and information. There's also a detailed list of qualification exclusions, like short packages of learning, which includes micro-credentials and certificates of proficiency. One example of the reports available is the progression from levels 1 to 4 summary. This report shows the progression rate and the figures that make up the calculation. So in this example here, there were 13,452 learners who completed their level 1 to 4 qualification in 2023. In 2024, 4,492 of these learners enrolled in a higher level qualification. Therefore, the 2024 reporting year, the progression from levels 1 to 4 rate is 33.4. So that's the 4,492 divided by the 13,452. It also tells you how many learners did not progress to a higher level within 12 months. So in this example here, it's 8,960 learners. This report also shows the progression rate by the levels 1 to 4 qualification completed and by the qualification NSCED. See if there's any other messages or questions. Okay, so I'll hand over to my colleague Nathan now.
Yeah. Kia ora everyone. I'm Nathan. I'm going to be going over the course completion rate and the qualification completion rate EPIs. Can we please go back one slide? Cool. So the first EPI measure I want to discuss is the course completion rate. The course completion rate measures the proportion of total course Fs delivered for courses ending in a given year that successfully completed in the same year. This measure is based on Fs, so it reflects the volume of delivery, not the number of actual learners. In other words, it shows the volume of delivery that occurred rather than how many people were involved. It is aligned to when courses end, not when they start. The course completion rate includes all courses that finished in the reporting year. That means that course enrollments that span multiple years are attributed to the year that they finish. For example, a course that starts in October 2024 but ends in March 2025 is counted in the 2025 reporting year. For the course completion rate itself, only successfully completed courses are included in the numerator. This is based on the outcome recorded in your course completion SDR file. There are some exclusions applied. These relate to specific qualification award category codes and courses that are eligible for PBRF funding. The full list is outlined in the EPI methodology. One example of the reports available is the course completion summary. This report shows you the course completion rate and the figures that make up the calculation. In this case, the course completion rate is 9,414 successful Fs delivered, divided by 11,094 course enrollment Fs delivered, for a course completion rate of 84.9%. Below the main values, there is additional breakdowns which show course completion rates and Fs delivered and successfully completed by individual courses, NSCED subject areas, individual NSNs, and the intended qualification that the course relates to. These breakdowns are useful to identify which specific courses, qualifications, or subjects, etc., are performing well and areas to focus on for improvement. I'll just pause for any questions. Cool. Okay, I will continue. Next slide, please. So the next EPI we're going to talk about is the qualification completion rate. I'll go into a bit more detail about how the cohorts and different areas of common questions we get. The qualification completion rate is a cohort measure that measures the proportion of learners in a starting cohort who go on to complete a qualification at the same level and the same TEO. It tracks how a group of learners who start at the same time progress and complete over time. A cohort is a group of learners who enter a qualification level in the same year. A new cohort is created each year for each NZQCF level, with level 7 split between level 7 non-degree and level 7 degree. A student enters a cohort when it is their first enrolment at the TEO at that NZQCF level, or they have already completed a qualification at that level at the same TEO and enrolling in another qualification at the same level. There has been a gap of 5 or more years since their previous enrolment, but that they did not complete. This slide covers some key concepts that we will expand on further in the next slides. A learner enters a cohort is based on the SDR enrolment data. Cohorts are created using the course enrolments from the final December SDR submission. Completions come from the SDR qualification file. Only qualifications completed within the cohort period are counted in the qualification completion rate. Learners don't have to complete the same qualification they first enrolled in. They only need to complete a qualification at the same level. Late completions are excluded. If a learner completes after the cohort period, more on that further down, they are counted as a late completion. It is important that qualifications are set up correctly in the qualification register. There are some exclusions. Certain qualification award categories and sources of funding are not included in the qualification completion rate calculations. For the full list of exclusions, refer to the TEC EPI methodology documentation. Accurate qualification award category coding is important. Make sure each qualification has the correct qualification award category in your qualification register. This code is used to help determine which cohort a learner is placed in. It is able to identify in the qualification completion rate learners who studied full-time or part-time in a particular qualification. There is a filter on each report sheet. Check the EPI methodology document links. Full and part-time learners only relate to the qualification, not the course or any other EPIs. In this slide, it shows how the starting cohorts work for the 2025 reporting year, depending on the intended qualification level. The period for measuring qualification completions differ by NZQCF level. For levels 1 to 3, it is a 2-year time period. For levels 4 to 7 non-degree, it is a 4-year time period, and level 7 degree and above, it is a 6-year time period. Any learner who is reported as completing qualification within the cohort time period will be counted as a successful completion in the reporting year. This is another way of thinking about it. For levels 1 to 3, it is all the learners who started in 2024. For levels 4 to 7 non-degree, learners who started in 2022, and level 7 degree and above for learners who started in 2020. Due to the cohort-based methodology, the qualification completion rate will relate to the 2025 reporting year. In this table, we wanted to illustrate an example of a single learner enrolled in a level 2 qualification. In this example, the learner first enrolled in 2024, which is the cohort start year. The cohort length is 2 years, so the cohort ends on the 31st of December 2025. and the outcome is reported in the 2025 reporting year. In scenarios A and B, it shows that the learner is counted as a successful course qualification completion, whether they actually completed in 2024 or 2025, as it falls within the learner cohort time period. Scenario C, if the learner completes in 2026, it is not included in the 2025 qualification completion rate, as the completion occurred outside the cohort period. In scenario D, no completion has been reported, so the learner is not counted as a completion for this reporting year. Reporting years are applied differently depending on the type of EPI measure, specifically whether the measure is cohort-based or not. This table shows that the course completion rate is not cohort-based. The reporting year aligns directly with the expected course end date. For example, courses ending in 2025 are reported in the 2025 course completion rate. The qualification completion rate is a cohort-based measure. The reporting year reflects the end of the cohort period. For example, the 2025 reporting year includes learners from the cohorts that end on the 31st of December 2025. For a learner is counted as completing the qualification on time if they complete the qualification between the cohort start year and the cohort end year. In this case, the learner was reported as completing in 2022, but the qualification completion rate is measured in the 2025 reporting year. One example of the reports available is the qualification completion summary. This report shows the qualification completion rate and the figures that make up this calculation. This screenshot shows the key values used to calculate the qualification completion rate. In this example, 18,622 learners completed their qualification on time. That's within the cohort period. This is out of 28,707 learners who first entered the starting cohort, for a qualification completion rate of 64.9%. The value for learners who completed a qualification, that's the value that does not have an orange box around it. That's the overall number of learners who have completed the qualification, our qualification, who started in the same cohort year. This includes the learners who completed on time, that are included in the calculation, and any learners who completed late after the reporting year for the learner cohort. As mentioned above, learners who completed late are not included in the qualification completion rate. Below the main values, there are additional breakdowns which shows qualification completion rates and learner cohorts and completion rates by different views, such as the intended qualification or the NSCED subject area. These breakdowns help identify which qualifications, subjects, or learner groups are performing well, or those that require further investigation. Do we have any questions?
Looks like the team online are fast answering those questions as they come through. I can't see any that we haven't tackled yet. One thing we'll certainly do at the end of this webinar is just review all the questions we've got, and if we haven't answered those questions for you, we'll come back to you individually on those. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, it's over to me. Thanks, Nathan. So we have now covered all 4 EPIs at a high level, and I know this can be a lot of information to absorb in a very short amount of time. However, there's one last report that we would like to show you today. We hope this report will help you in understanding your EPI data further. The Education Performance Data Report provides detailed NSN level information for all EPI measures. It shows the most granular data you'll be able to see in a table view, and it includes the numerator and denominator for each EPI calculation. This report is the very last report before the data dictionary in the My Performance SDR app. I'm not going to lie, this report can take you some time to get your head around, as there are 33 fields displayed. Each row of data shows one measure only. This is shown in the first column on the left-hand side. You can filter for just one measure type, as shown in the pink boxes. Only the relevant EPI data fields will be populated against the relevant EPI. So what that means is if you select one EPI, not all 33 fields will have a value displayed. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this table shows you a list of all the 33 fields that are visible in this report. And depending on what measure type you select, so what EPI, will depend on which of these 33 fields will be populated. The NA fields in this table are shown as either a dash or a 0 in the information product. This report can be good for many reasons. One is to look at specific NSNs or what NSNs make up a certain EPI for a certain reporting year. An example of when this report might be useful is when you have a learner or a group of learners who completed their qualifications, but you are unsure what reporting year their qualification completion rates is being reported against. Another example is if you want to see all the learners enrolled in a specific course in a reporting year and which learners were reported as successfully completing their courses and those that weren't. I do recommend that you take some time to look at this report in conjunction with the reference table above. And then if you have any questions after that, please reach out to the customer service team and we will work with you individually to answer these. I'll hand back to Esther now. Thank you.
Thanks, Denisa. So technical, very technical, and we are getting a few technical questions in the chat, and we'll continue to answer those as we wrap up our webinar today. You'll all now, no doubt, I guess, begin to kind of formulate any other questions or your early thoughts on which elements of this presentation you want to dig into some more. But it is my job just now in the kind of remaining few slides just to ground, I guess, some of what we've talked about today into some of the practical applications when it comes to improving learner outcomes. As I mentioned earlier, knowing what your learner data is telling you is central to a learner success approach. And when you can see, for example, which courses, quals and learners have lower success rates, and when you understand where and when learners are dropping off, you're even better placed, I guess, to make targeted changes to the way you are delivering the support you're offering those learners and potentially program design as well. Look, TEC has done a lot of research in terms of learner success, and we know from our own research that taking a data-informed approach is really important to support that learner success effort on your part. And look, it's not just about better results for your learners, but also we know that when you are able to retain learners and you don't have to go to the significant costs of replacing learners and all those kind of things, if you can keep them with you, then that supports your own financial sustainability as an organization as well. So pluses all round, I guess. There are a range of learner success resources on the TEC website to support you to build on what you're already doing in the learner success space. One of those is our learner success framework, and that provides a really practical evidence-based approach for putting learners at the center of your decisions and your design and your delivery, and to help you identify and address any gaps. And then alongside this, we have the learner success diagnostic. That's really a self-assessment tool that can help you understand what your current state is in terms of learner success activities as an organisation, and identify where to focus your efforts to improve your outcomes even more. And lastly, of course, we run a community of practice here at TEC where providers can share knowledge and good practice on initiatives that are delivering better outcomes for learners. If you're interested in more in hearing about the community of practice, I've got the address there on the slide for you, so please do reach out and we're happy to send you some details about what's happening in that space. All of these resources I've just mentioned are available on the Learner Success section of the TEC website, and to make that easier, the link is in the slide. We are in the process at the moment of developing some new resources, especially for smaller PTEs, just to make sure that those tools that I've just referred to are kind of practical and fit for purpose for smaller PTEs. We're going to provide a bit more information on that in the coming weeks, but those resources for smaller PTEs will be all available on the Learner Success section of the TEC website. Okay, well, we are at the end of our conversation today. I just want to double check. I think we may have a few questions still on the slides that we will come back to you on if we haven't had a chance there, and we'll make sure that a summary of those questions is provided as well for those of you who are watching this webinar or looking at the printed material later. When we send out this pack of slides, we've got a couple more slides at the end, which we're not going to go through now, which touch a little bit on some of the TEC qual completion terminologies, just to help you easily access kind of those reference materials. But it remains my duty just to thank everyone for your interest and your input today. If you have got any further questions, as it says on the slides, please do get in touch. And we'll let you know in the next few days where you can find the link to this recorded webinar and the presentation slides. So thanks everybody, really appreciate your time. Mauri ora kia tātou.